There is a version of you that keeps walking back toward the exact thing that hurt you. Not because you're weak. Not because you haven't learned anything. Something else is happening, something older than willpower. But the real answer is found in this powerful thought. The story of the prodigal son was never really about leaving home. It was about why we come back to the wrong places before we ever find our way to the right one. You know the outline. A younger son asks for his inheritance early, essentially telling his father he wishes he were already dead to him. He leaves. He spends everything on a life that looks like freedom and ends up feeding pigs, starving, alone. Eventually he returns home, expecting punishment, and instead finds his father running toward him. Most retellings stop at the ending. Forgiveness, celebration, a fattened calf. But something in the middle of that story gets skipped, and it's the part that explains why you keep doing the thing you already know hurts you. Why did the son go back at all? Not to the far country. He'd already ruined that. He went back to the one place that had rules, expectations, a father he deeply disappointed. Psychologically, that should have felt like the last place he wanted to be. And yet it's exactly where he walked. Neuroscientist Judson Brewer, who has spent years studying craving and habit loops at Brown University, found something that reframes this entire pattern. Your brain doesn't actually chase pleasure. It chases familiarity. A behavior loop gets wired in through repetition and reward, and once it's wired, your brain will pull you back toward it even when the reward stopped showing up a long time ago. Not because it's good for you. Because it's known. That's what makes the far country such a precise detail in this story. It wasn't home. It was somewhere new, unfamiliar, untested. And it fell apart almost immediately. Think about what that means for you. The relationship you keep returning to. That never gave you what you needed. The old habit you swore off and then quietly picked back up. The version of a conversation you keep replaying instead of letting go. None of these are really about wanting them. They're about your brain defaulting to a groove it already knows, even a painful one, because a familiar ache can feel safer than an unfamiliar unknown. Here's the twist the parable makes, and it's easy to miss. The son wasn't running back to comfort. He rehearsed an entire speech on the way home, planning to ask his father to treat him not as a son but as a hired servant. He expected consequences. He expected to have to earn his way back in. He was not walking toward safety. He was walking toward accountability, because some deep part of him understood that going back into structure, even hard structure, was better than staying lost in nothing. This lines up with something else research has shown about how people actually change. Psychiatrist George Vaillant, who led Harvard's decades-long study following the same group of men through their entire adult lives, found that the people who recovered from serious setbacks weren't the ones who avoided returning to difficult relationships or difficult truths. They were the ones willing to go back and face what they'd broken, directly, without the protective distance of pretending it didn't happen. So why do you keep running back to what hurts you? Sometimes it's the familiarity loop your brain defaults to without asking permission. And sometimes, if you look closely, it isn't self-destruction at all. It's an instinct toward repair, dressed up in a shape that looks like relapse. These two things get tangled together constantly, and most people never separate them. You assume every pull backward is weakness. But the story suggests something more layered. The son's walk home wasn't him giving up. It was him finally choosing the harder, more honest path over the easier, emptier one. The detail that changes everything is what happens next. His father doesn't wait for the rehearsed apology. He sees him from a distance, while the son is still far off, and runs to him. In that culture, at that time, an older man running in public was undignified, almost humiliating. The father did it anyway. That single choice reframes the entire idea of returning to something painful. The son expected a transaction, earn your way back in, prove yourself worthy, start again as a servant. What he got instead was a father who had apparently been watching the road the whole time, ready to close the distance before the apology even finished. This is where the modern mirror comes in, and it's uncomfortable in a useful way. You are probably not measuring your own return the way the father measured his son's. You're measuring it the way the son measured himself, assuming you have to earn your way back to okay, assuming there's a debt to pay before you're allowed to stop punishing yourself. But notice what the story never asks the son to do. It never asks him to prove he's changed before he's welcomed. The welcome comes first. The change, if it comes at all, comes after, inside a relationship that already accepted him. This matters because the parts of your life you keep returning to, the hard conversation, the relationship you're trying to repair, the version of yourself you thought you'd left behind, are rarely fixed by punishing yourself into worthiness first. They're fixed the way this story fixes them, by walking back toward the thing honestly, without the rehearsed speech doing all the work, and letting what happens next actually happen. Brewer's research on craving loops found something almost identical, from a completely different angle. The loops that finally break aren't the ones people fight the hardest against. They're the ones people finally turn and look at directly, with curiosity instead of shame, which is a strange and counterintuitive way to loosen something's grip on you. Shame keeps you circling the same painful loop, pretending it's new every time. Honest attention, the kind the son offered when he stopped rehearsing excuses and simply told the truth, is what actually interrupts it. There's a reason the older brother matters here too, even though he rarely gets mentioned outside of this story. When the younger son comes home to celebration, the older brother refuses to go inside. He's furious. He stayed, he worked, he never left, and now the one who squandered everything gets a feast while he never even got a small gathering with his friends. His anger isn't irrational. It's the anger of someone who believed love had to be earned through consistency, and now watches that belief get quietly overturned in front of him. The father goes out to him too, the same way he ran to the younger son, and tells him something easy to miss in the drama of the reunion. Everything I have is already yours. You didn't have to earn what was already given. That line reframes both sons at once. The younger one thought he had to earn his way back through servitude. The older one thought he'd already earned something through obedience. Both were operating on the same faulty premise, that belonging is a transaction instead of a starting point. The father corrects both errors the same way, by refusing to let either son turn love into a ledger. This is where the pattern in your own life gets easier to see. Maybe you're not the one running back to old wounds. Maybe you're the one standing outside, arms crossed, unable to understand why someone who left gets welcomed home so easily while you stayed and did everything right. That resentment is just as human as the craving loop that pulls the other son backward. Both are forms of measuring worth by the wrong scale. Neither son could see it from where he was standing. The one who left could only see his own failure. The one who stayed could only see his own unrewarded effort. Only the father could see both of them clearly, because only the father wasn't measuring at all. What the story keeps insisting, from every angle, is that the relationship was never meant to run on scorekeeping in the first place. Not for the son who left and came back ashamed. Not for the son who stayed and grew bitter. The invitation is the same for both of them, offered before either one has settled the account in their head. So when you catch yourself walking back toward the thing that hurt you, the question worth asking isn't whether you're weak for going back. The question is what you're actually walking toward. A familiar ache dressed up as comfort. Or an honest reckoning dressed up as failure, that might be the first real step toward something better. There is a version of you that keeps walking back toward the thing that hurt you. Maybe that's not always the story of falling apart again. Sometimes it's the first honest step toward finally coming home.